streets ain't talking about you, man. If I can't spin a block and find out about you, man, the people ain't about you, man. That's just what it is, you know?
But I got to
talk about it in the streets, man.
Yeah, this one's for the streets first. Stripes like a referee shirt. This one's for the streets first. Tell mama this the rebirth. Say I need church. I talk dirty. Put my hands and my feet work. Teamwork. Put in pain, but gotta bring it to the streets first though.
It's your boy Abutta, and I'm back with another episode of that Streets First podcast. You already know how your boy do. I goes out and I brings them out. I'm at Tios. The second location, you know this place is being franchised. You saw me on Linux with I Am Ash Cash. Now you're seeing me on St. Nicholas Ave with my guy, Billy Harlem. Billy Council, you heard? What's good, baby? I call him Billy Harlem because he's from Harlem, he represents Harlem, and everything that he does, it just has Harlem in it. You know what I'm saying? How you feeling today, Billy?
I'm good, brother. Man, just came from church. You know, so
shout
I'm
out
good.
to church.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? It's always good to hear some word. But we're about to give you some free game. Billy, if you don't mind me asking you, man, growing up in Harlem, if there was like just starting off, what does Harlem mean to you? I'm quite sure you've had multiple experiences. You're an advocate, you know what I mean, a philanthropist. So I'm quite sure your way of looking at what Harlem means to you is in a different perspective. What does Harlem mean to you?
I mean, Harlem is just it's just been a way of life for me, right? You know, yeah, it's just a way of life, the culture, the atmosphere, the community. You know, growing up for me, it was more so about the community, was my family, right? So it was like that village, right? So that was one of the things that it meant for me, is to always be a part of it and always be inclusive, right? And always make sure that you represent where you live and where you from the best way that you can, right? Some people do it in ways where it's financially beneficial to them, right? Okay. The culture of our community is what made me feel like this is the place to be.
So the culture kind of like moved you. If there's one thing that I do remember, and I'm just speaking for me in my view of culture, I remember you had the restaurant Cove.
Yes.
Just for business people, what is it like having a restaurant / lounge in Harlem?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a twofold, right? Because it was great because you're giving back to your community in the whole, right? And you making it, I used to call Cove like the Cheers of Harlem, right? Everybody would congregate at Cove, no matter if you was young, no matter if you was elder. Like, I had something for everyone because that was the community that I grew up in, right? It was right around the corner for where I was born at, where I lived at, right? So it was more so the place to be, but it was also a struggle, right? Because it becomes a struggle in our community when you opening up a business and you know everybody in that community, right? So sometimes one of the things that happens for us as Black individuals is that we think our friends owe us something, right? And our support sometimes is not there that like it should be, right? And that's why a lot of businesses in our community that we have owned always fail, right? Because a lot of times we don't support the way that we're supposed to support, right? And that can come from different avenues and different reasons, but you know, it was a twofold. It was probably one of the best times of my life, and then it was also the worst times of my life, right?
So looking at the stigma, I would say, of not supporting, to watch you through your journey as me growing up a little younger than you, to see you, I saw you run for city council for Harlem. You get what I'm saying? Like, can you explain like the political world and trying to get support, like now that we're speaking about support?
You got to realize, like, in a lot of times in our communities, we segregated, right? You know, the politician, the political community don't mess with the basketball community. The basketball community sometimes don't mess with the business community. The business community sometimes don't work with the church community, right? So with running for city council, I had to try to figure out a way how I bring all of those entities together. How I can sit all of them at the table and all of us have a conversation about how do we embrace our community, how do we develop our community, and how do we develop and support one another, right? So that was probably like running for city council, that was my goal, right? How do I bring all of these entities all of these rooms of entities that I'm in, right? So all of those rooms I was in, from the basketball room, from the political room, to the church room, to the business world, right? Those was rooms I was in, and it was just like, okay, how do we galvanize and how do we bring people together to do that?
So when you say you had to like galvanize and how do we support and how do we come together, I don't think most people would know that I'm taking you through your own autobiography as we speak, but to be able to get people to get on the same page, sometimes you have to create your own.
Yeah.
And can we speak a little bit about you and the foundations that you run? Can you enlighten the people about the foundations and being the chairman and just being a part of the things that you're a part of with the Wrens and New Heights? Like, there's a lot that I'm saying that because I know who you are and you're so community activated, that I think that the people need to know your story and how they can learn from when you found out who you are and how you can tap into things that sometimes you can see don't work out.
Right.
You are the leader of that. So I'm making sure that they can see this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So I think, everything for me has always been community orientated, right? It has always been a fixture in my life to try to give back. And the reason why, because growing up in this community, in the 80s and 90s, right, it was drug infested, right? So we grew up in that community, right? I always tell people, young people want to be what they can see, right? So if you only see one thing, that's what you aspire to be. Right, so just a little history on that story on how I got to a lot of those places was through me being on the streets, in this community here, and being shot 6 times and left for dead in the same community in my building. Wow. Right, so from that landscape, I look at it like, okay, how do I improve not just myself but young people that are growing up behind me. Right, so I went back to something that I love, which was basketball. Right, that's where we all met, was through basketball. Right, so I wasn't on that on the Abutta level.
No,
right?
But I see where the team oriented.
You see where it goes,
team
right?
thing comes from. Okay.
So what happened was, at that time, I said I want to. So I'm in the hospital with my grandmother, and my mom was sitting there, and I remember somebody saying to me, "If God pulls you out of this, you're gonna have to do his work."
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Rest in peace to your mom, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
You know that.
But at that moment, I did not know what that was going to be like, right? So you look at activism and you look at, saving communities or working in communities. The first thing you think about is Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, right? And if you see both of them, their civil rights movement was totally different.
Okay.
So it was just like, what is mine going to be, right? Mine came through basketball.
Okay.
So I started developing, coaching and developing basketball programs and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna save all of these young people's lives, right? But not realizing that they were saving my life at the same token, right? So doing that is like, I want to keep developing these young people. So the whole goal after a while was like, yo, I'm gonna do all of this track just to coach college basketball.
Okay.
That was the dream.
That was the dream.
Right. That was the dream.
Okay.
So developing all of these programs and working, and then becoming an athletic director, then becoming a high school coach, and then starting the Wrens, then working, first New Heights, then starting the Wrens. So all of these basketball programs. And then after a while, after I got to the college level, I was like, this is it. And I remember one day God saying, nah, this is not it. You got to do more work. So then that's when I kind of turned and went the political route.
Okay.
Right? Like, yo, I need to continue helping this embattled community who needs another voice.
Okay.
And I'm not going to try to stand on the voice of some of the elders and talk over them. I'm going to listen, and then I'm going to take that pathway, and I'm going to get the group of young people who will listen and understand what I'm saying. And that was our young men.
You built a team.
Right?
Okay.
So I just started building that dynamics where I'm dealing with young people and becoming a mentor and becoming an advocate for them. So doing basketball, coaching basketball, I wound up getting with a good friend of mine, Crystal McCrary, and we decided to do a documentary right? So that we did a documentary for Nickelodeon called Little Ballers.
Little Ballers for Nickelodeon?
Yeah, so we did, I produced that documentary for Nickelodeon, then they said we need to do another one for girls. So I went into a license agreement to do two documentary series for Nickelodeon.
For Nickelodeon?
Yeah. Now, they both were nominated for NAACP awards.
Both nominated for NAACP awards, and what I don't think that people will hear, that I want to make sure that they don't miss, especially the fact that he brought up names like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Those people started just like him. Started as local heroes first before they became national ones. There were things that they did locally first in their community before they became national heroes. So again, this is why I'm connecting with leaders, dreamers, visionaries. But here's that other thing that you should become, a doer. What good is it to write these things on the board? What good is it to dream when you have leaders here that have been shot 6 times, but still can create this kind of a lifestyle? I'm just curious, again, because I like to keep these kind of stories going. I don't think that people can see how you can have just a conversation and will be able to be empowered from it, just hearing someone's story, knowing that they're just like you. So again, going back to you building with now these communities and you doing the things that you're doing. Again, another thing too, behind the scenes, I noticed that somehow you went from being in the scenes, which is a politician, to being behind the scenes, starting your own things, helping those things grow. Now your documentaries, things of that nature. Today, Billy, what is the vision? Because I was a part of this that I don't think people know. A Sunday dinner.
Right.
Can you please speak a little bit more on you being a father, building with your son, creating things like that, Sunday dinners with dads and fathers of alike to come and talk about things. I want you to let people know a little bit more of what's available that we all deal with, but there's a better way, knowing that there's leaders out there like you that can help with that if we all come in these spaces, these safe havens.
Yeah, so
that's what you've been creating. New Rens and new heights. You guys know in New York City, they're safe havens.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I appreciate that, and thank you again for coming to our Sunday dinner. So Sunday dinner was basically birthed out of me losing the election.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of times when people see men, and especially black men, when they see men, the first thing that the perception is, that's a strong black man, right? And men should be strong. Men have to be our protectors. Men have to be our leaders. Men have to be our providers, right? So when I lost the election, people don't realize I got real depressed.
Okay.
And I got down, right? And at the time, one of my best friends at that time, we kind of battled. He was my campaign manager. Like, he battled, and he used to be my voice of reason, right? And I used to have conversations with him, but at that moment, our relationship kind of like went left.
Okay.
Right? And then when I was sitting in the house one day, I said I needed to go outside and I needed to take a walk because I was basically crashing. I was in the house crying. I couldn't really reach out to certain people because certain people were like, oh man, you'll get it next time. Don't worry about that. Come on, right? But not really asking me, how you really doing? So didn't really have that conversation with other men, because when other men see you, they see you as sort of like put together, like you got it all together, because you're not going to talk about your struggles, right? That's the thing about men. We don't talk about our struggles when we're going through it. No matter if you're married, no matter if you're single, if you're in the LGBTQ plus I family, you don't really have those conversations. So what I did was I walked outside one day and I saw somebody that I wanted to just talk to. Right? And the first thing that he said to me, he was just like, yo, Bill, what's going on? I was like, hey, you know something? He's like, yo, I need to talk to you. I'm going through something. So me wanted to be able to give myself and have this conversation with somebody. He caught me first. So now I had to take that mask off that I wanted to reveal. Right, I had to keep it on.
So that you could reach him.
Right, so I could reach him. Right, so I'm now having this conversation, but deep down inside, when he talking, I needed to be there for him. And then it was just like, you ever seen that movie Superman, when Superman is flying with Lois Lane, and Lois Lane is like, Superman is like, I got you, and she looked back at him, was like, yo, but who got you? So at that moment, I didn't have anybody that I can really have that conversation with, right? My lady at the time, I couldn't really conversate with her because, again, when you are in certain relationships, you're the man. So you always got to have this persona that you know it all. So what happened was I went home that night and I started watching Soul Food.
Okay.
Right? And I came up with the concept, dog, men need to have conversations at the dinner table again.
Yep.
Right? Authentic conversations about issues that's plaguing us and in our community. So I'm sitting there and I love to play off names. I was just like, what name can I come up with, right? Okay. So I came up with the name Sunday Dinner, right? Because I wanted to have men at this table to have a conversation, but I didn't want it to, I wanted to be where the men that's at the table, they may not be fathers, right?
Okay.
They may not be husbands, they may not be boyfriends, right? But everybody at that table was somebody's son.
Has a common.
Right? That's the common goal. Somebody has somebody at that table is a son. So when I came up with the concept, it was just like, okay, but now what's the caveat to it? And I was like, so now this is where we go into this age of mental health, right? So I'm saying to myself, like, you know, what can we do? What can I do to help the brothers? And at that same time, I'm saying helping the brothers, but guess who I really wanted to help for? Me.
So you're helping others and helping yourself.
Right, because now if I bring all these men to this table together, right, now we can leave our armor, we can take our masks off, and we can just be vulnerable.
Okay.
Vulnerability is important. Vulnerability is important, especially in the black community when it comes down to black men, because we don't know how to do that.
Most people don't know that vulnerability is connected to freedom. But go ahead.
Right, so it's connected to freedom, but a lot of times black men, we don't know how to be free, right? Because it's like anything else in the household, in the family, the first thing that you're doing is you got to make sure your wife is good, right? Make sure your wife is good. You got to make sure the kids is good. Then you got to make sure the household is good. But then it's just like you're thinking about yourself last, right? So that's what really happens. So now it's like, okay, everything is going to be all right. So now when we get to Sunday dinner, right, I'm having these conversations with my son about it. And didn't realize that there were so many things that he was having issues with, because as I always say, broken boys become broken men. And I was a broken boy. You see what I'm saying?
So now this conversation is going from you helping someone else to having a conversation to helping your son. I mean, to talking with your son. But now I know that this is going to kind of like feel where it's coming back on you, because now you got to hear as well how your son may feel about you and his relationship.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now,
make sure we on point.
One of the things that, and then I'm just gonna circle back to it, but one of the things that I didn't realize is, like, you know, when you grow up, you know, I grew up with my dad. You know, my dad was in the streets, and I would always say he was never there. Right? So he was able to give me things financially, but his presence wasn't there.
Okay.
Right? So then what happened was I said, I'm not gonna do that with my son. I'm gonna be present, right? I'm gonna go to all of his games. I'm gonna go to the school, right? And I would do that, but yet and still, when I'm getting in the car, right, I'm on the phone with him, picking him up from school. Now I'm on the phone. Hey, son, how you doing? But I'm still on the phone. So now, as we get older,
you're there, but you're not really there.
I'm right. Okay. So the presence is there, right? So now I'm thinking, like, yo, I started all these basketball programs. I'm the director, the executive, whatever title I am, I'm overseeing the whole program. So he's in this program, and I'm now his coach, but I didn't know how to be his father, because everything that I was doing, I was coaching him through basketball, right? Living vicariously through him, right? So I didn't know how to become his father. And I didn't know how to become his father until our relationship shift when he was going to high school.
Okay.
Right? Because think about it, when you a coach and you got your son and you coaching him, y'all get in the car, what y'all talking about?
Basketball.
Right? When you get home, what you talking about?
Basketball.
Right? When you taking him to school the next day, what you talking about?
Basketball.
So everything was basketball. I was his basketball coach. I wasn't his father. So then one day he sat me down and he was like, yo, I don't want to coach anymore. I want you to be my dad.
Wow.
So with that whole Sunday dinner concept, it was like, okay, well, a lot of us as men, we don't know how to show up because a lot of us wasn't taught how to show up the right way. We learned as we went. We saw sometimes when the father wasn't in the household, right? Some of us grew up without our dads.
Single parent homes.
Right? So when we in certain relationships, that's okay.
We don't know we wasn't taught how to react and respond
Right.
to those situations.
Right.
Which is where our power lies, mind you.
Right. So now with Sunday dinner, that was the premise of it, right? But now I said, I just don't want men just to come around this table and have conversations. I want us to have conversations that's impactful and that's meaningful, right? And there's I wanted them to walk away with a tangible item. So what I do, okay, well, my church has the Hope Center, free therapy. So why don't market it and join forces with the church, right? So now you get
together.
You get a QHP, a qualified health professional, right? You bring them to the table, right? And now what you want to do, because one thing that I'm learning about men, and I can say that about myself, sometimes we need somebody else to show us something.
Okay.
Right? We may have it in our head, but we may need to see somebody else who's going through it and be like, oh, yo, he's going through it. Yo, how'd you getting through that? Yo, I went to therapy. Right? So now what I wanted to do, I wanted to show our men that therapy is okay. Therapy is the new okay.
That's right.
Right? You don't have to, it's not like, oh, that's your crazy
You're leading
cousin.
by example. Okay.
Right? So now I'm sitting there like, yo, I'm in therapy. And this person is helping me get through that. So that's how the Sunday dinner concept came together. And then what we did was guys, if y'all want free therapy, here's a place where you can go get that free therapy. You sign up. And after a certain amount of time, right, now you enjoying the therapy and it's helping you and it's getting you past certain issues that you had, your childhood trauma that you were going through, right? Now you starting to work on yourself. Now this is where our healing process come in. And this is where the healing process started to come in through our community.
Most people wouldn't know, but season 4 that I'm getting ready to wrap up, I have the Hope Center on there, as well as the Dream Center right down the street, which is connected to FCBC, the church. My pastor, he's a leader, a visionary. He's separated, church and state, and he's created the Dream Center and the Hope Center to be able to help the community. The Hope Center, hope to them, to us, which means healing on purpose and evolving, to take that challenge on, to face mental health in that perspective. Like you want to heal on purpose, you want to get better. So again, me being around those type of leaders is what I'm trying to package in a way where I can do it the way I am and where I'm from. I'm from the streets and I know how to speak to the streets in a way where they can relate it. They can understand it. They can relate to it. Meaning, in different terms, everything that we all understand from whatever level you learn things on or you have been exposed to is exposure. So I'm reaching the streets by bringing people of power, people of status, people of leadership, people of purpose in a way where they can be able to help people just from conversations, daily conversations of daily things that we do, that we are turning around and shaping in our own lives. In this story, you could hear, as I'm speaking to him, you went from speaking, growing up in Harlem and what Harlem meant to you, to now not realizing how you have, and not saying you, I'm talking about the listeners and the people, how so much you've created from what might have been hurting you or what you struggled through. You've given that back now and opportunities and ways now back to your community. And that is called leadership. That is called empowerment. So it's not easy to get on this podcast because everybody's talking it, but I got to see you walking. So again, I love the fact when people can come out and have a conversation, not realizing how it's empowering and impactful to other people's lives. You know what I mean? Again, you should have a purpose. You know what I mean? And with your purpose, you'll start to realize your power. Now, here's the last part that I'm going to get to in this conversation. You know, this is called free game. I'm giving it to you. My nickname was a whole lot of game. Contentment. After everything you just heard in his story, the one thing that you're going to have to accept is what God gives you. What's next, Billy? See, because this is how you can hear through a person's story. Everything that he's built, everything that he's been around and connected to. Listen to what's next that he's going to have to be content with, no matter what, to see God's plan come through for him. See, these are the things that happen when you get on your knees and you pray. These are how things can turn around, that you can see what? He done more than you ever expected. You know what I mean? Most people wouldn't understand that. Why? It was a one-on-one conversation. It wasn't a conference call. So sometimes you can't preach this to everybody. I'm not out here in the streets preaching that word, but I do go to church. I do get on my knees, and as you can hear, I know how to say it to where you can hear it. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
I think for me, there is when we talk about what's next, I don't like the terminology what's next, right? Because
leaders, listen,
right?
This is his story. He's not putting a ceiling. I don't want you to get that twisted in conversation. When he tells me what he doesn't like that I said, he's not going to allow my lenses to put a cap on what he's getting ready to do. I hope you can understand how I'm breaking it down to you.
I think, you know, when we say what's next, it's like, okay, well, I just finished eating. What's next? What I'm going to do? I'm going to go sit down on the couch and watch TV.
Okay.
Right? That's what's next, right? For me, is how do we continue to evolve? Billy, what's the next evolution that you're pushing, right? Okay. And for me, I think we're at a critical time in America right now, right? And I think one of the things that I speak about a lot now is what's happening in our new administration.
Okay.
Right? And how do we educate our community on what's next? Right? Because we sit there and we talk about boycotting, we talk about this, we talk about that. But one of the things that we stopped doing is strategizing strategically.
Which is part of evolving.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So
don't
now,
just look at what we do. Prepare for it.
How do we prepare?
Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. I'm gonna keep throwing these things out. I'm listening to you. I like it. You can learn from conversations and debates, not idiot debates. You can't learn from idiots.
Right, for sure.
This is influence, empowerment. Go ahead, my bad.
So when we have these conversations about what's next, right, as us as a culture, and I'm not just talking about black, I'm not talking about white, I'm just saying in general.
Okay.
Right? Strategic strategizing. How do we move forward, right? How do we, understand and educate our community on, like, okay, you don't like what's happening now? Who do you hold responsible for it, right? Where are the places that you need to go to have your voice heard?
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of times we sit there and we complain. And I say this a lot, like we complain because we don't do enough, right? So how do we do enough? First thing that we need to do is strategize. How are we going to lead this community, right? How are we going to lead this community to the next chapter, right? We need to hold our elected officials accountable.
Okay.
Right? We need to show up in those spaces and ask them questions, right? Because when people see that you don't care, they're going to do the minimum. But when people know that you care and somebody is watching them, then they work harder, right? It's like in basketball, right?
Okay.
What's I saying in basketball? Talent beats hard work when hard work
doesn't work.
Work hard, right? Talent beats hard work when talent doesn't work hard.
That's right.
Right? So we have to be strategically aligned, right? So now my next is educating our community, our non-voters, right? Because in our community, let's just look at District 9 in Harlem right now. We have over 160,000 registered voters, right? But the last election, somebody won with only 4,000 votes.
they believed he put his name on that check. I'm just saying that this is when you're not educated. This is why it's important to bring you guys here.
But when it's not educated,
you can bring education to that. I mean, when your community is not educated, they would believe that he put his name on that check, so he gave me that. So they didn't come out. They vote for him and think of him that way because of not being educated, hearing and seeing. Though you said we got to see stuff, right?
Right.
I'm pointing things out to you.
Right.
I'm in the street. I'm trying to tell you how they talking. So again, this is why it makes sense to talk with people like you, because strategically, if we can hear your plans, which you've been around, you help people like me know how to talk and reach them.
Right.
That's why this is so important.
Right. So we're just gonna go back to what you said, right? People think that right. One thing I'm gonna say about Donald Trump is he aligned himself in a position to make magic, right? And why I say that is what he did was he said, stop, don't print those checks. Right? Forecast. Like, I'm going to put my name on this. Right? So when he put his name on it, president, he can do that. Right? But that had to get past Congress and has to get past the Senate in order for us to get that money. So it's just like, yo, I'm going to allow myself to add value to you, but I'm really going to add no value to you, right? Because it was already passed. The bill was already passed. The money was already coming, right? So I guess when people saw that, because they're not uneducated on how the government is ran and how it works with the House and the Senate, right? They assumed that he gave them to them.
So you saying that because their leaders passed that and allowed that, is the reason why you having a conversation about making sure that you educate yourself on how you hold your leaders accountable. And then you're telling them to strategically start doing some things. But go ahead, keep going.
Right.
Sometimes I have to put it in simpler terms and forms for people to understand it. This is what I wanted people to get. When you've been exposed to what you've been exposed to, the people that you talk to in the circles that you in may understand you.
Right.
But if you don't know how to speak it to people that need to be educated, it's going to be hard for them to relate.
Right.
I'll give you a term, just quote unquote, and leave it at that. Languages of money. I hope that makes sense to you. There's different languages of money. Don't just know how to speak English. Don't let that go over your head. Be bilingual. But go ahead.
So I think for me, it's about the education piece, right? Educating our community, right? Like for example, most people probably in this room when we having these conversations probably don't understand ranked choice voting, right? Ranked choice voting is happening in June, right? Then you also have the midterm elections that's coming. So when people sit there and ask you or say something about Trump signing all these executive orders, right? Listen to this. Trump has the House and he has the Senate, right? So most likely he's going to get everything passed that he wants. So when he puts all these executive orders in place, he's putting them in place because these are the things that he wants to overturn the government with. These are the things that he wants to do, right? So now he's doing all of this right now because he has the House and the Senate. So in another year and a half, when we got to go back to the polls to elect Congress and Senate, right, we have to flip the House back.
Okay.
So most of the laws that he's going to try to pass can get rejected. Right? So all executive orders, like when we talk about him banning, when he terminating all of this stuff going to stay in litigation for the next six to 8 months.
Okay.
Right? And it's going to stay in litigation, right? But you got to also remember, he assigned certain people as judges. Right? So he knew the avenue that he was going on. So when I say strategic planning, right, we have to really say, okay, how are we going to get it back? This is where we should start planning. This is where the planning stage is coming in now. We can't complain about this man because we already knew what he was doing with the Project 25. We knew he was going to that, right? And people don't realize how much that is going to affect black businesses, how it's going to affect businesses in totality. Think about it. It was in the New York Times. There's 36% of restaurants in DC's closing.
36%?
36% in restaurants in DC is closing. That's around the Capitol, and the White House.
The restaurants are like the lifestone of the neighborhoods, the community.
Right, but now, so those are the things that we have to start realizing that is a bigger picture, right? It's a bigger picture than him sending us a check for $1,200, right? We have the Department of Education New York City Public Schools, who stand to lose $2.2 billion, right? If they dismantle the Department of Education, right? Just coming to New York City, right? And who's that going to New York State? Who's that going to affect? Black and brown individuals.
Yep.
Right? It's going to stop the meals that's coming into the schools. Right? It's going to stop our disabled students, right? So there is so much work to do, and then also we got to look at some of our MWBE organizations.
If most of you don't know what MWBE is, it's Minority Women Business Enterprise. Research it, Google it, do your homework in it. Again, I'm on that side of the playing field, and I'm on this side of the playing field too, because I know I might have just shocked him that I knew that. But go ahead.
But no, so I just say, like, we all have to start just paying attention.
Okay.
Right? Because think about it. It's maybe not going to affect some people.
That's a status that you should want to have.
Right? But when we have our young kids, it's going to stop the pre-K programs. Right? It's going to stop the after-school programs, right? Because remember, New York, these schools, they get funding for those programs.
That's right.
Right? Independent schools, it's not going to affect them. Right? Catholic schools, it's not going to affect them that much. Right? Charter schools, it's not going to affect them. But New York City public schools, so when you look at New York public schools, there's 1,800 public schools in New York City throughout the 5 boroughs. Right? They serve 1.8 million students from pre-K all the way up to high school. Those kids are going to be affected by those programs. So now we talk about businesses, right? So now you got community-based organizations who are providing direct services to our young people. If that funding gets cut to the school, those businesses that are providing services to those kids get cut too. So you see how it becomes a domino effect. And when that domino effect happens, right, there's no after-school programs. People can't come into work, right? That's working in these restaurants, right? Because they got to make sure they get their kids. Right? So it's a domino effect that affects our whole community. Right? And especially District 5.
That is true, especially District 5.
District 4 and District 5. That is Harlem's elementary school zone.
Right. That is true.
We are ready against the 8 ball when our young people with their peers. When I visit schools in District 1 and District 2, and then I come back to visit schools in District 3, 4, and 5, there's a big disparity.
Total difference.
Right?
Wow.
The other piece to it is parents. People will say, oh, parents are not involved. You know why parents are not involved that much? Because they can't afford to take off of work to come be active in schools.
Such a even more trickle down effect. It's bigger than what we. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So now when you look at your community leaders, right, and you look at, all of them have discretionary funds. Right? So when we don't go after those RFPs, right, to get funding, then that money just sits there. And that is for our community, that's for our businesses, those are for our community-based organizations to provide direct services to our young people.
That's true.
Right? So it's like you can't help kids and don't help their parents. Right? So in order for us to grow in our community and develop a certain statute, we have to be able to bring everybody together. Right? It's like in coaching, right? You are, as a coach, you are an extension of the household.
That's right.
Right? So we have to figure out a way how we help and develop and cultivate our community in a whole.
Well, here's one of the ways we're going to start. Streets first. Why? Because I'm here and I'm bringing people like you to be able to give this kind of information out. I'm bringing other leaders that's also doing that to be able to help people, whether it's learning who you are, being able to hear other people's stories to be able to see what purpose you may have within yourself, and then getting some information to be able to start shifting your own life. Why? Because we all have the power to do that. There's a uniqueness about all of us. And that's the reason why I kick in that motto, we're stronger together. Because if you're hearing his story with businesses, with guys becoming rich now, with us learning how to strategically do things together that you've seen them doing, write-offs, et cetera, to empower your community, there's a lot that we can do together. But strategically, we have to be able to sit down and start having these spaces to be able to do that. And that's what I'm creating. This is why I appreciate having you come on the show. Billy, if it's with, please let them know, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? And where can they keep up with all that you're doing?
Well, I'm on all platforms as Billy Council, so you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and just continue to follow and and support one another.
It's more to come.
Absolutely.
You know that, right?
I appreciate you, my brother.
This is what I have to do, man. I'll give y'all a little bit of it, but I want to be interviewing people. And then I want to come back to the table and do business with them.
Absolutely.
I try not to put too much of that out there because everybody going to go back and look at all the people that I've interviewed from season 1 now to season 4. It might blow your mind, but that'll just let you know how well connected I am. It's your boy Butta. I'm from Harlem, baby. I'm not just a basketball player, you heard? I holla.
Yeah, this one's for the streets first. Stripes like a referee shirt. This one's for the streets first. Tell mama this the rebirth. Say I need church. I talk dirty. Put my hands and my feet work. Teamwork. Put in pain, but gotta bring it to the streets first though.